I'm Alison. I'm a Hills District Doula, supporting women during pregnancy, birth and postpartum. Today I am here with Genevieve from Get Well with Jen. She also supports people through pregnancy, birth and breastfeeding journeys. Today Jen's going to tell us a little bit about her journey through birth with her 2 children.
So I'm Genevieve, and I'm just really excited about, talking to people about what Alison does, because she's a doula, and I think doulas are such an important profession, and I'm really excited about the differences between my 2 birth stories, having a doula for baby number 2, Keanu, and how different that journey was for me compared to my birth story number 1. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So do you want to tell us your experience?
Yes.
To start with?
So I had a lot of fear around my first pregnancy with Cadell. A lot of fear around birth. You go to the hospital, you do their courses, and it's all about pain and fear and what I guess can go wrong and worst case scenarios. So you do get a lot of negativity around that. So I was very concerned. Having a doula there, they stay awake, they're there to support you. They're not going to laugh at anything that you're going through. They're there 100% for you. So yes, it's great to have your husband or partner there as a backup person, but having a doula there is really your go-to person, because they're just for you. So that's really important. And also with hypnobirthing, that hypnobirthing teacher does not come to the birth with you. So you can bring your CDs, you can bring your books, but that person doesn't come there to the birth with you, whereas the doula does. So first time round, went to a hospital, and I didn't push, I wasn't very assertive. I didn't have a woman there to say, no, that's not the question she asked, this is what she asked, and that's what a doula will be there for you. And they will also explain those kind of things to give you that support. Then I was forgotten about for 24 hours, I had no food because I was going to be induced, and then towards the end, I was 9 3/4 centimetres dilated. However, I had lip, and Cadell's lactase levels were dropping, and my instinct, they gave me an option between pushing and doing an emergency cesarean, and I went with the emergency cesarean. He was very blue when he came out. It took them so long to revive him that one nurse said time of birth and another nurse just said count back 7 minutes. So it was, did it take 7 minutes to revive him? Who knows? But, even having my ex-husband in the room with me at the time was impossible because they didn't have the staff in the public hospital. In recovery, I had a nurse and a doctor fighting at the end of my bed over allowing him to be present during the birth, because apparently that's a no-no if they don't have the staff. So that's an unfortunate experience. Yeah. But it was, taught me a lot about what I did and didn't want during birth. I definitely did not want to have another cesarean, and I knew a lot of women who had a VBAC. So I knew my sister had a VBAC a couple of months before my second, so I knew it was possible. I spoke to a lot of friends. I read a lot of positive stories online. I also read a lot of articles on doulas, and I mentioned to this random woman in the vitamin shop where I worked at the time about I wanted a doula, and she said, well, I'm actually studying to be a doula. And I said, okay, fantastic, you can be my doula. So she came to my house, had appointments. She talked about techniques when the labour slowed, which I guess is a problem for a lot of women, is you progress to a point and then fear stops you from progressing the next level. So doing meditations, changing positions, all of that kind of stuff. She was on top of that. She was there at the hospital. I went to a private hospital this time, so there was no understaffing issues. She was just fantastic, and I got to have my VBAC. She made me eat during labour. She was just absolutely fantastic. I did not need to be induced. I went into labour naturally early. Your recovery is better because you can walk around afterwards.
Education is so huge.
Definitely.
To go into birth, knowing before you're into birth all of your options, so that you're not arguing at the end of a bed.
Yes.
You need everything ironed out well and truly before that unfolds.
Yes.
So everybody's on your team.
Definitely. Yes.
And so you had your doula with you at the birth.
Yes.
So what prenatal, birth and postpartum looked like with for having a doula?
So staying at home for a much longer period of time, because I felt like I could stay at home for longer because I had a support person there at home. So felt like I could labour at home for a lot longer, which was great. So when I got to the hospital, I was a lot further along. So she came to the house in the night, and then, you know, when I felt like I was good and she could go home and just check on her son for a couple of hours, she did. And then she met us at the hospital, and at the hospital, you know, she was great because she was getting Keanu's dad to massage my back, and he fell asleep on me. And when they're 6 foot tall and really heavy, it's really hard when you're in labour that you suddenly have a heavy person asleep on you. So she just quietly picked him up and put him in a chair, and, you know, which I didn't even know that had happened. I just knew he was suddenly heavy and then he disappeared. So you're in a different kind of zone at that time. But that's why the doula is really important.
Yeah, doulas do sleep at births too if we go really long, but generally we know to stay at home for longer, and when to go to hospital, so that you're not doing really long births as well. And so how did your doula work with your partner?
So she got me to try different positions because I was stuck at 8 centimetres. So she got me to try different positions, different massage techniques, different reflexology points, that kind of thing, to stimulate and progress the birth. So that was really great for her to be there. And then you feel like you've got a plan. You feel like I'm not just here in this state of fear going, I'm not progressing. You've actually got a plan of what to do, and I'm doing this, and this is going to have this effect. So rather than being in that unknown place of, you know, midwives are great, but they're not necessarily going to give you techniques and different positions unless they understand all of that to help you progress when fear kicks in and stops you from progressing.
And what did you think was the difference between your midwife and your doula, though?
I guess the midwives were there for the medical side of things, so to monitor the heart rate of Bub, to, you know, do the medical side of things and tick off all the boxes, whereas the doula is there just to support you 100%, and also to support your partner as well, because when they're there, they're a bit lost and confused because they've probably not ever been to another birth. So if you think about it, they actually need some support as well.
What do you think your doula did during the labour to help with emotional fears?
She would read out meditations to me when I started to get into that fear state. She was very
to bring you back to
at pulling me out of that fear state when I started to go into it. It's like she could see that. And also we had lots of practice meditations at home prior, and I knew the ones I liked, the ones I didn't like, the ones that really worked well for me. And then I said, can you use this one, can you use that one? So it was like our communication was really great, so we were able to communicate really well.
And did your doula look after you as well as postpartum?
Yes, so she came postpartum. We had like a debrief, and that's when I learnt that Daryl had fallen asleep on me, so that was pretty funny.
The debrief of a birth is so important as well.
Absolutely, because then you can say any fears, any blockages you had. If I'd had a third, I would have felt confident to have a home birth, but having an emergency cesarean first time, Daryl didn't agree to doing a home birth, whereas having a nice smooth hospital birth, he would have agreed
being comfortable with
have a home birth next time. So it's about what you're both comfortable with.
Oh, definitely. But the support that she gave you at home as well?
Yeah, fantastic. So she came to the house during labour. It was interesting because during labour I had the labour tens machine, and every time I had a contraction, I would turn it up, and it was like I was just in another place. So a lot of the debrief of the birth was her telling me things that had happened, but you're in this other place because you just go internal and then you don't feel the pain. So that's a really good thing, to go into an internal place. So then, you know, you're in a pain-free state rather than...
And that's where you should be too. You go in and focus on what you need to be doing, and let the rest of the world...
then you're not really aware of what's going on, what
around you.
Different things happen, and then so it's good to have that debrief afterwards.
Definitely.
What's happening.
And I'm really passionate about postpartum care as well, so getting those nutrient-dense meals back into mums and helping them as their recovery as much as possible in their breastfeeding journey.
Definitely. Yeah, so I mean, I guess with breastfeeding, a lot of women suffer from mastitis, and mastitis is purely just an imbalance in gut flora. water. So if they're taking a good probiotic as a preventative, doing bone broths and stuff, that will prevent them from getting mastitis. And then also, you know, working with a naturopath and their doula to help with different techniques. Because do doulas do breastfeeding as well?
I guide on breastfeeding. I know I'm not a qualified lactation consultant, but I do know many lactation consultants around to refer to if we do hit a roadblock of some sort. Obviously I do know how to you know, deal with latch and positioning and things like that. And the probiotics for mastitis and things like that to recommend. Definitely a naturopath along the journey for the whole thing is a great step.
I mean, it's also about supporting your body, and then obviously for the next birth, having a doula there to prepare you for the next birth and, you know, get your body ready, and then to let go of any fears that you may have had from the previous birth, because birthing should not be a fearful place. But if you go through the hospital system, so much of it is taught in a fear-based way. So then you do, and also I guess listening to other people's birth stories, and
you only hear the bad stories, and that's a sad part of it too. You know, there's so many beautiful stories out there, and I think if people can go to Along to see Birth Time, the video, the documentary as well, that's fantastic. I love that. That's sort of supporting more of you know, natural births, and that you can do it.
Our bodies are designed to do this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great.